Waking up, freedom. Oh my goodness. So today's topic is waking up and tuning in to more freedom. I'm just going to be talking off the cuff about my own experience with just this awakening process, an ascension process, and waking up. It's waking up. My teenager today was interesting. He would not get up, and then we eventually had to get the spray bottle out and wake up. Um, Late for school and everything, and I just kind of think about that with waking up ourselves spiritually and energetically. How many times do we need the proverbial spray bottle, and how many times is it just confusing or challenging as we reach for more freedom? Something happened yesterday. I heard this quote, and I wanted to share it with you because it just opened my mind to a whole nother level of freedom. And it's just so interesting what the quote was because, anyway, I'll get into that in a minute. But today, freedom, waking up, and how it's kind of strange, right? The up and down roller coaster. So let's get into it. This is Rebecca Abraxas, and coming with you today with off the cuff, guided message. Just sat in meditation, and this is kind of what came through to talk about today. To offer some spiritual guidance, to offer some perspective, to offer some, oh yeah, this is what we're going through. No one's alone in the process. So here we are. So waking up today, waking up physically, waking up spiritually, waking up vibrationally. Wow, it's sometimes not easy, right? Yet it is easy if we just take the Nestle's plunge, right? Uh, you know, lately I'm going through this next piece of awakening, space of awakening, where nothing is real concrete and nothing seems to be desirous, really. There's not a lot of desire to keep learning or right now. I just feel very internal in this little cocoon. Can anyone relate to that? Just this internalness? Yeah, there's not a lot of outward, and life's and awakening seems to be like that from what I remember of just this like cocooning and then opening up, cocooning and opening up, contraction and then opening back up. Um, that's the process of waking up. So I heard something last night from a talk I was listening to, and I'm gonna butcher his name. I don't know how to say his name, but Bentino Massaro. Anyway, he's from Holland, and he is kind of a spiritual leader, teacher. And I was just listening to some of his stuff, and he was talking about freedom and looking through the eyes of source, or seeing as source, as God. And this is my whole thing lately, is just we are source. We are source. There's no separation. So it floored me when I heard him say, are you seeing as source? You know, how many times in our spiritual awakening, in our journey, are we being the kindness of source, being the love of source, being the but are we seeing as source? And this just exploded my mind. He's like, this will bring true freedom. Seeing as source, right? Seeing as children, right? Jesus talked about acting and being like children. And I think it's the innocence of source nature, because what I was getting from this is that like source is beyond all definition. It's beyond all form, judgment, right or wrong. It's just looking, it's experiencing. It's just freedom of experience with no judgment, with no right or wrong, with no definition, with no form. And so in that sense, like love and kindness, they're forms. So it's just like even separating and releasing from that like that moral code or right and wrongness, like separating from that, like that's not what source is. Source is just this freedom of total experience. And when bringing that into my day, I'm like, oh, oh, wow. It's like this innocence of never seeing something before, of just like, wow, here we are experiencing this and experiencing that. And he went into talking about like going beyond oneness, going beyond nothingness is where true freedom lies. And this just hit me like, boo, yes. You know, when you have a perspective that comes your way and you just feel it with every cell of your body, that's what happened to me when I was listening to his message around freedom and waking up to seeing as source. And it like, there's times in my life that I've said, like, okay, I am going to walk into this yoga room and just see the light, you know, of everybody. I'm going to see the highest frequency. I'm going to see, you know, lightness, the light in everybody. So I've practiced seeing that way, but to see as source, to actually see as source, as God, to me, that was so profound, is so profound. What does that spark up for you? I'd love to hear in the comments what this brings up for you. Um, and I guess it depends if you're relating to God or source from a certain religious connotation or a certain spiritual connotation. For me, source is, for me, how I guess define source, which can't be defined yet. It's like beyond everything, beyond all polarity, beyond before all creation. And so, you know, I've studied a lot of different things. I've tried to categorize or try to describe all of this. So it brings me into the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita when they talked about the Sat, which is what source is, the Sat of all. And then going into the Chit and the Tat, which is, I forget which one's which, but one is the where source is like, let's go into creation energy. And then the top, yeah, okay, I think the tot is actual creation. So someone way back thousands of years ago in yoga philosophy tried to become aware of this and try to define it in human terms, but maybe nothing can be understood. And that was another thing I got from the talk, is that how many times in my life have I been this seeker, trying to understand. And lately in my life, I've had a big shift recently. Like for Christmas, it's happened and it's continuing just to unfold. It's just the seeking has calmed down, and the idea that I can understand anything in this human form is just limiting, because I'll always in a human form try to create another story. I'll try to create another form and definition, which decreases any possibility of understanding it. So it's to understand it, it's like what I've noticed is pure freedom that I'm looking for with trying to understand all of this really comes from sitting still in the complete freedom of the I am, with no story, with no definitions, with no forms, with no structure at all. And you know, when I talk to some people about their experiences when they're studying astrology or the angelic realm or the ETs or any kind of religion or Buddhism, like all of it is just an attempt of us trying to understand. But it all just comes from this limited human perspective way, right? And so perhaps we really can never understand it, and there's really nothing to seek. Only kind of the purifying and letting go so that we just are free. We are just free in source. And this is a little tough. It seems simple, right? But it's kind of tough living in a 3D world, living in America with all the forms and structures and financial ways you have to show up, and structures of, you know, how parenting is, and is having a home, and it's bringing me up to the chaos, the true chaos of life. Eckhart Tolle talks about, really just listening to a talk of his, and just I just, the power of presence, I just keep it, there's some retreat that I just keep running and listening to in my car when I'm driving. And he just talks about that there is no security, that all there really is just kind of just chaos. And then we focus and we can bring it into a moment. But there's no security. How many times, especially in, you know, these first world countries we live in, are we just comfortable in the security that we've created for ourselves, with our retirement, with our job, with our investments? And boom, they really could go up in flames like that. Gone. So security is a false reality. Something we hold on to desperately. But anything, the people in our lives could disappear, die, walk away at any moment. The investments could just drop and disappear at any moment. Our job, we could just drop and disappear. So in listening to that, like, I really get into the true freedom of hands up in the air to chaos, and to just seeing and being source, and letting go of understanding any of it. And a lot of this channel, if you look at all the different videos, it's been years of seeking and sharing and exploring, and, you know, different techniques and different perspectives. And they can help too. They're all part of the process. And sometimes I go back to the different things that I've played with before. And sometimes I just sit in the, I don't want to say nothingness, because it's everythingness. I don't know how to explain it. But, you know, since this past shift I've had, like, memories are fading, just attachments are fading. Yeah, part of me feels like I'm just fading away. But here I am. Here I am. So it's an interesting place to be. Yet, is this pure freedom? Is this pure freedom when we just really unlatch from all the forms and structures and definitions? Yeah. But it really lit me up. It really lit me up to hear that phrase of seeing as source, seeing as God. You know, and if source and God to me is just the allness and freedom of everything, then seeing life as such, I don't know, that lit me up. But of course, if you have kind of like an Old Testament background or program of God, seeing in those eyes, through those eyes, is going to be a little different than that. Guess just all what you're playing with. But beautiful people, freedom. Do you feel that freedom of allness? Do you want to practice with me seeing through the eyes of source, being the eyes of source? There is no separation. We are source. We are. So therefore we would be seeing as source. And that's what, like, I just, like, it occurred to me, like, oh yeah, of course I'm seeing as source. And if I was seeing as source, like, am I really practicing this? Am I being who I really am? Am I remembering my greatness? Am I? And that just hit me like, oh yeah, there's a whole nother ball game to this. So this week, really tapping into seeing as source, as me, through me, for me. And let's see what this brings. Let's see what this brings. And thanks for listening. These videos are probably going to get a little bit more off the cuff like this. This is just where I'm at. Bullet points and stuff. I don't know. It's just not really where I am right now. But I find it helpful to me to listen to people's awakening and journeying process. So perhaps hearing a little bit about mine could be of service to you as well. So, beautiful one, thanks for being here. Thanks for all you are contributing just by being you to the planet. And I will see you next time. Namaste.